Hello to you, Emanuel Shahaf.
Hello, hello.
Identity, the quest for Israel's better future. You are seeing what happened in the last Israeli elections, and you are saying to yourself that what would be the next step?
Since the problems for Israel haven't changed, and the outcome of the elections will bring a likely clash, or a likely bring to the top how serious the problems we have are, the search for a solution will also become acute. And since nobody else is talking about alternatives to the two-state solution other than we,
and the Federation idea.
With the idea of the Federation, I'm pretty sure that sooner or later, probably sooner, the Federation will come up as an alternative, alternative arrangement. Basically, the only way out if we want to stay a democratic country.
So you're saying basically that now with the new regime, the new government of Benjamin Netanyahu, you're saying that the one-state solution is more than ever the only solution on the table, and then the ideas of the Federation are more relevant than ever.
Exactly. So no doubt that we are already in a one-state scenario. We have been sliding into a one-state scenario for years already. We are there. I think the outcome of the elections has given further emphasis to the fact that that is more likely to be the future than a two-state scenario. I don't see any way getting back to the two-state scenario, definitely not with the incoming government, and the more time passes, the less likely it's going to be. So, as one-state scenarios go, the Federation is really the only one which would permit us to remain a democracy and maintain a Jewish identity in parts of the Federation.
And the first step, trying to implement the Federation ideas towards the new coalition, what practical step would you offer to the right-wing new ministers to implement?
I think the moment the discussion starts regarding annexation, this has to be brought in. I think the media have to be also supportive of that. That they don't go overboard with annexation without taking into consideration the civil rights of the Palestinians who are being annexed. And the earlier we're going to start talking about the Federation, the better, because then we can. The right in Israel has been more likely to accept changes than the left historically. So there's a considerable likelihood that we will be able to advance the Federation, even with this government. Or especially with this government.
You're talking about the media, that you're putting some kind of expectations to open themselves for new ideas. Are you witnessing any kind of openness in the large media of Israel, Channel 12 or 13, towards new ideas after the election?
First of all, the media have, basically embraced the incoming coalition. They're not, they're accepting all the right-wing radicals for interviews and everything like that. And since right now it's not being discussed yet right now, but the moment annexation will come up, and it will probably come up, since it's one of the major points that the right-wing wants to advance in this government, it will come up pretty soon. I think it will come up in the media as well. And we'll hear, from the left, of course, we'll hear a lot of screaming and yelling and whining that that's the end of Zionism and the end of the Jewish state and the end of whatever.
Your response to this?
Which is, my response is it isn't. And it'll be, I think it'll be helpful. It'll be easier for the media to then talk about the Federation, because who wants to hear only screaming and yelling about the two-state solution, which isn't going to be? We have to talk about alternatives, and that's one, and the Federation is of course one of them.
When you're seeing the response of the IDF after the elections, even before, while we're taping this video report, still Israel wouldn't know who is going to be the next minister that is going to be responsible about the security, about the IDF. But the IDF has changed its policy.
IDF has, I don't know whether it has changed its policy, but it has changed what it says about it. Okay? There was an instance of stones throwing in the West Bank, which happens quite a lot, and a Palestinian was killed. In the past, that would be broadcast in some kind of fashion that would make it not clear how things happened. There was an instances of terrorism or stone throwing, and the Palestinian was killed. This time, the army spokesman said that the army observed Palestinians throwing stones and shot at them. Okay, so and one was killed. Okay, so this is it's even not clear whether the stones were thrown at the army, or it seems to. Anyway, it was pretty clear that the army spokesman already adopted the new government wholeheartedly. Although in the long run, I think the army will have to be very careful if it maintains this kind of policy, because it can blow up the West Bank, and the army will have to deal with that. So they can't just keep shooting people
and saying that out loud, that it's legit.
Saying it out loud, because it'll backfire literally.
What do you think about the quietness of the Jewish people that are living in the United States, in Europe, after the elections? It seems that...
Well, for the time being, there are a few articles in the New York Times, especially. I haven't seen anything from Europe, but...
Tom Friedman wrote in the New York Times that there is Israel that we all know is gone.
It's gone, yes. And Joshua Leifer this morning also wrote an article about that an extreme Israel is here to stay. Which I don't know.
And you would answer them?
Well, I think it's better to wait and see. But generally speaking, I think whoever is very concerned has every right to be very concerned. Okay, like I think we should be very concerned about what's happening in America now. Okay, the midterm elections look like they go very much Republican, which is not good, considering that many members of the Republican Party seem to exhibit signs of anti-Semitism, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. We don't know where that is going. What we have to say here in Israel, that we have to wait and see, and we have to collect the forces to deal with the impending onslaught on democracy, which is about to come. And how bad it is, we won't know for sure, but it has potential to be pretty bad.
One of the main ideas regarding the principles of democracy in Israel is that any kind of majority in the Knesset will be more important and could implement any law even on top of the Supreme Court.
Can overrule the Supreme Court, yes. Mm-hmm. This is a key element of what the right wants to advance in the present in their incoming government. And if that should happen, if that bypass law, a law bypassing the Supreme Court, is passed with, and it would stipulate a relatively small majority, like 61 or even 65. That's a very it's a death sentence for Israel's democracy. It literally is a death sentence. Okay, if they legislate a bypass law with 70, or it needs 65 and 10 members of the opposition, or something like that, something which qualifies it, that would be acceptable. But to have it basically that the government can overrule any decision by the Supreme Court, that makes a mockery of democracy, and that's something we won't be able to deal with.
And even though the American president, Joe Biden, called, it took him a few days, but he called Benjamin Netanyahu and told him that he congratulates him. You think it's only a way to show respect, or you think that basically he also knows that this is part of the democratic play?
It's part of the game. There's nothing much he can do. You know, I mean, he may hate Netanyahu's guts, which could be.
Sleepy Joe, he called him.
Yeah, okay, so Trump called him that, yeah.
But Benjamin Netanyahu also
yeah,
mocking him with the
very
eyes
mocking,
closing.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't think there's much love lost between the two. But Biden is going to be a lame duck president soon. So I don't know what the implications are for all that. The relations between Israel and America are more driven by Congress than by the presidents at times. And I think the combination of right-wing government in Israel and a potentially Republican administration or Republican Congress is not a good combination. But
it's not good because what is going to be happening?
Well, whatever tendencies we have in Israel, and anti-democratic tendencies are not going to be stopped by an American administration unless they go completely haywire. But
what would you say about the theory that maybe the right-wing ministers and government are the ones that are going to be implementing the federation idea?
I hope so. I don't think. I think it's not a realistic estimate, but they could warm up to it, especially when there's pressure from the outside, and also when there's pressure inside Israel from the Arab population and from the Palestinians.
That are quite quiet, the Arab population right now.
Everybody's ducking and waiting, waiting for the incoming. So we have to wait and see. But the right has, historically always been more likely to accept change than the left in Israel. So I hope that we have reason to think positive and advance the federation in Israel, even under these difficult circumstances with a right-wing government.
Emanuel Shahaf, as always, an upside. Any idea that you're saying that maybe this is part of the good news as part of this report?
I think what I said what I said in the end, I think the main issue is that our problems aren't going anywhere. This government is probably going to bring them to the top quicker than it would like to, not because it wants to, but because that'll be the reaction of the surrounding areas and the Arabs. And we'll have to deal with it, and that will give us an opportunity to put the federation into the game. And I hope everything will work out for the better.
Emanuel Shahaf, Identity, the quest for Israel's better future. I want to thank you very much for this report.
Thank you.
People that want to be part of the community,
go to Facebook, Emanuel Shahaf, the Federation Movement, or Identity, the quest for Israel's future.
Respectful than ever. Thank you.